Thank you for joining us. I'm Jonathan Whitcomb. This is July 30th, 2021. We're live streaming here on the regular Friday afternoon live stream chats on the Protect Animal Life channel of YouTube. And we're going to get into several things, particular encounters with living pterosaurs in the United States. And this is astonishing, as it may seem to many people, astonishing to me for years. But it's a real phenomena here in the United States that people see these flying creatures. It's not just in the tropics, and we'll compare this with the sighting by let's see, I'm trying to find Kuhn, Eskin Kuhn in 1971, because this is the 50th year anniversary of the sighting by Eskin Kuhn. About this time of the summer too, around July, when he had his incredible sighting of two pterodactyls, as he called them, at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And we're going to get into the details on that. And then we'll get into the live chat, which doesn't usually happen right away. It'll take a while. But the subtitle, Encounters with Living Pterosaurs in the USA and Pterodactyl Sightings in the United States, is the title. So let's get into this a little bit. I'm going to be trying to read some things here. We'll get started with, let me get into this. This is a summary of some things that Eskin Kuhn said years ago. Here, I'll read it here. This is the words of Eskin Kuhn, the U.S. Marine, in 1971, was when he was stationed at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Quote, I was not stationed to the barracks, but to 2nd Battalion, 8th Regiment, Reinforced, H&S Company, 106 millimeter recoilless rifle platoon. Now, the 106 millimeter is not a rifle in the usual sense. It's more like a cannon, a huge gun. We were engaged during the day in physical training, close order drill, gun drill, cleaning and maintenance classes, and other sundry routine common to service life, including a break for lunch with its attending rest period or free time. It was during such a free time period in the middle of the day that I was outside and witnessed the pterosaurs. And he's saying this quite a few years after the event, in more recent years, in fact, perhaps in around the early 21st century here. Quote, it was a beautiful, clear summer day. I was looking in the direction of the ocean when I saw an incredible sight. It mesmerized me. I am an artist with sharp eye for detail and was determined to drink in the visage before me for future recording on paper. I saw two pterosaurs, or pterodactyls, what's in a name, flying together at low altitude, perhaps 100 feet, very close in range from where I was standing, so that I had a perfectly clear view of them. The rhythm of their large wings was very graceful, slow, and yet they were flying and not merely gliding, like turkey vultures do here in Ohio. Yeah, in recent decades, Eskin Kuhn has lived in Ohio. Quote, the rate of their wings means, maybe explain this. He's talking about the rate of the wings flapping, okay. Quote, the rate of their wings was very graceful. The pterosaurs I saw had the short hind legs attached to the rearwardmost part of the wing, and they had a long tail trailing behind with a tuft of hair at the end. I'm still quoting, the head was disproportionately large, with a long crest at the back, long bill, long neck with a crook in it. The chest of the creature was similarly prominent, protruding forward like the prow of an old ship. The vertebrae of their backs was noticeable, mostly between the shoulders. I would estimate their wingspan to be roughly 10 feet. And I'm still quoting Eskin Kuhn here. For those of you who are just joined us, Eskin Kuhn, the U.S. Marine, was stationed at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, in the summer of 1971. Well, actually, he'd been there 4 months when he had the sighting, around July or so in 1971. Okay. I'll get on with the quoting him. Quote, the vertebra, okay, I already got that one. Quote, it has been 30, well, it's been a lot more than 30 years now, 50 years. So This was, I guess, 20 years ago, so it must have been around the year 2001. This is a 50-year anniversary right now in July of 2021. I'll just quote what he says. Remember, this is a couple decades ago when he was giving this report. Quote, it's been 30 years now since I was there. Memory fades even for something so startling as that. I recall running to a barracks, grabbing Sergeant Cunningham by the arm and trying to drag his reticent self outside to witness them and corroborate my sighting, but by the time I could get him outside, they were gone. I rotated back to the States not long after that, and for the rest of my tour, I never saw them again, unquote. I spoke with Eskin on the phone just a few weeks ago, probably around the early part of this month of July. He was in good health. I didn't mention the 50-year anniversary. I should have, because it's a wonderful event. Here's an addendum, what he put later, not long later, just shortly afterwards, I presume not too long after that, many years ago when he was giving this report. Okay, let me give you this. A quote. The height I stated is about 100 feet and the range very close, the wingspan roughly 10 feet. I recall that immediately afterward I could not positively discern the size of the creatures or the altitude of their flight, precisely because there was no known point of reference visible within the frame of space they were observed to occupy. Well, he's using a lot of words, but you know what he means. In other words, they were not flying close to any tree that he could help get a reference for how big they were. The size of the creatures was a little easier to judge, but not much. Their span could have been 8 feet or 12 feet, with a body length of perhaps 30 to 40 inches. That part has to remain a guess. They came in from the direction of the sea and flew inland. In Cuba, we swam a great deal on weekends. A group of us once explored some coastline and saw several caves. In one we entered, we disturbed a large number of bats. And I continue quoting Eskin Kuhn. Cuba is a land of mystery and many secrets, I feel sure. If ever we reestablish trade with Cuba, I should like to revisit Gitmo. Surely someone else there has seen such things. Well, yeah. In other words, not only that, but he didn't realize at the time, this is a couple decades ago, he didn't know about Patty Carson. Let me get there. Patty Carson had a sighting around 1965, a few years before Eskin Kuhn's sighting, and she had a very clear view, a close view, close enough that she could see teeth in the beak. Now, there is some difference here. Patty Carson was mostly observing this particular, or Ropen, we call it now, long-tailed pterodactyl, modern pterodactyl. This Ropen, at close range, my wife will get the phone, or else she won't get out of the bathtub and it'll be unanswered. Don't worry about the phone, that's mine. See the teeth? Yeah, many little sharp teeth. She had a good view of it, a close view, probably quite a bit closer than what Eskin Kuhn had for the two that he saw. But she saw it as it stuck its head out of the grass, and she saw the long head crest at the back and the curve. She got a good view of it. She also got a view of it after it took off and took flight. And she could see the tail flange at the end of the tail. She said it was held horizontally, not like you see that paleontologists think it was, but it was horizontal. And it flew off very, very quickly. It just took off. It perhaps startled and was afraid, and it just didn't know what was going on. But this was a few years before the sighting by Eskin Kuhn. And this is a wonderful event. We need to check the chat. Yeah, we got people here. Nix, Cypher, thank you for coming back, Nix. Glad you're here. Nick says, from my understanding, sightings of cryptids such as Ropen are sightings cited by people of various socioeconomic backgrounds, but I believe this substantial cross-section of people leads to its validity. Yes, and definitely, yes. I try to keep bringing that up next. Thank you. Very important. People from very different backgrounds see the same thing. Nick also says, sorry, I'm playing while driving. I didn't want to miss the live stream. Well, just drive safely, Nick's okay? Drive safely, that's the main thing. That's what we're concerned about. Again, this July 30th, 2021. This is subtitle Encounters of Living Pterosaurs in the USA, but it's related to the sighting by Eskin Kuhn in 1971, because it's a 10-year anniversary in July of 2021. It's 50 years after the 1971 sightings of these two flying creatures. We now call them Ropens. Eskin Kuhn called them pterodactyls, which is fine. People can call them what they want. Also, good news here. We have Animal Discovery is officially established. This is a nonprofit organization, not yet officially recognized by the federal government, so we can't guarantee tax advantages to the contributions to Animal Discovery. And this is still an early stage, but we're officially recognized by the state of Utah, Animal Discovery, as this nonprofit. We still have a number of things to do with paperwork and so on. But we're going to be mentioning, too, that modern pterosaurs are not bats, though people call them bat-like flying creatures, because they don't have feathers, especially nothing like primary feathers, nothing remotely like that. Some hair, of course, and bats, of course, have hair. But the Ropen has a long tail with a flange at the end, and its head is very different than bats. Yeah, it's the modern pterosaur. So now, if there's nobody else here with the chat yet, we can go on a little bit with further things. Particular, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the sightings in the United States before we get too far. Particular, let's get to one in Illinois. It says, over 10 years ago, I had a, quote, over 10 years ago, I had a 5-foot awake encounter with what I am certain to have been a pterodactyl, so on and so on. Oh, listen to this, quote, as the top of its wing hit the front end of my mother's one-day-old new vehicle. Oh, yeah, this is incredible. He was driving his mother's new car. It's just one day old. And the pterodactyl crashed into it as it was trying to fly between this vehicle and the one in front, which had a trailer behind it. It might have been trying to get into the trailer, because some people carry things in the trailer that can be food for predators. As I understand, that's probably what happened. But you see, he and his traveling companion had turned off Fairview Heights and near St. Clair Square. And don't have the city right here, but okay, here it says, a quote, it was our first and last view of it just as it flew directly between us